Yeah, it is. And as your colleague was just saying, it's hard to know how much stock to put into each one. Although if I was forced to choose, I would err on the side of the YouGov survey showing Truss is ahead by about 24 points, just because they've got more of a track record. They've done this several times before in several previous leadership elections, and they've got a good record of it. So I would say that, although I would point out that as polling challenges go, doing party membership is really quite challenging, especially for the Conservatives who don't put out public information about how to make your sample representative of the Tory membership. It's such a niche audience, you're really kind of struggling to get, take whatever you can get, and it's hard to make that as accurate as you'll get with general public polls.
Adam, is that partly because the Tory members just don't trust pollsters?
It's mainly because there's so few of them. There's about 150, 160,000 or so. If you are doing this, if you imagine how many phone calls you'd have to make to get that incidence of people, especially if you don't have the database to actually start making those. If you're trying to do it online, the proportion of people who are going to be on your panel who are going to be Tory members, we're talking, 0.1% or less than that of the population. So it's really, really tiny numbers. You have to do a lot of verification to make sure they actually are Conservative Party members. It's really just because it's such sort of needle in the haystack stuff that it's really hard to get in the first place.
Yeah, and we mentioned in the introduction private polling, because, if you are Rishi Sunak and you're trying to calibrate to what extent you go on the attack, to what extent you pull a rabbit out of the hat, let's talk about, as you did only a couple of days ago, cutting income tax by 4p in the pound. I mean, gigantic policy rabbits, guided to some degree by how he feels he's doing in the polls.
Yeah, there's always a pinch of salt you have to put next to any kind of claim about private polling. Like, why is that being released? Why are people taking their internal data and releasing it, especially if it differs from what the public data is saying? Now, just on our behalf, we don't put much extra sort of special sauce in the stuff we do for private clients versus what we put out publicly. It's largely the same method. The results we get are largely going to be similar. So if you do have something that's showing a very different picture, yes, as I've said, it's a really hard race to poll. It's a really difficult sample to get, but I would be a bit skeptical of anything showing wildly different results. Although, like I said, it's difficult. Maybe we'll all end up with egg on our face at the end of this if Rishi Sunak pulls it off.